Hello, all you sword-loving cosmonauts. As always, I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing For Honor, which is a new third-person melee combat-style warfare game developed by Ubisoft. So I got my hands on the beta. I promised you guys via Twitter that I would do a video on For Honor because it's something that I've personally been looking forward to for a very long time. I never got invited to the alpha, so it was my first time playing it, and so I finally got some time to sit down and get my thoughts together about the game. So for those who don't know what For Honor is, it's a third-person melee brawler. It's multiplayer and it contains a variety of different game modes such as 4v4, 2v2 or 1v1 duel. And it's solely around the idea of there's three factions and you're all vying for control of the land. And the overall gameplay plays out in turns which last around 6-7 hours, something like that, and depending on how well your faction has done, you will gain or lose various territory. So before we talk about the combat, where most of my opinions do lie, let's talk about the character progression, because the character progression was something I was surprised by and something that I really enjoyed. So you have a number of classes, 3 currently for each faction. I preferred the Knight faction, so I played as the Warden, I think it is, who is a nice balance. It's pretty much one of the easiest characters to play as because it has a nice balance between attack and defense. And you can upgrade your character's armor and equipment by at the end of every match you gain loot. You can also buy loot using the in-game currency steel, and you can buy loot packs, and then you can switch out various pieces of armor, upgrade your weapon blade, upgrade your weapon hilt, that kind of thing, and each specific piece of armor or weaponry has its own statistics that it will bring to the table. So you'll have any given set of armor or any given piece of weaponry, such as the blade or the hilt, will have advantages and disadvantages depending on what it is. And so you can really customize your character that way. There's also plenty of customization in terms of appearance, which I really liked. The thing that I like the most about the character progression is not the fact that the characters have unlockable abilities, so as you level them up they will unlock new abilities that you can use in battle, but it was the culmination of all the different pieces. So the fact that there's plenty of appearance customization, the fact that I can tweak armor and I can, scavenge armor parts, use destroy armor parts that I don't need to reclaim salvage, and then use that salvage to upgrade an existing armor piece that I do like. And the fact that there are abilities that you can unlock via leveling up all culminate in a character progression system that I really have to say I think is fantastic and I really do enjoy. But enough about character progression, let's talk about the combat, because that's ultimately where the core of the game lies. The core of the game lies in its multiplayer, in its 4v4 matches, in its 2v2 matches, in its duel matches. I preferred the 4v4 domination mode, where it's basically capture and hold the points. There are NPCs, soldiers that you can attack and defend with, and I have to say that I really enjoyed the current game modes in the game. I think that I would like to see expanded game modes in the future with more size and scope, but for the most part, as it currently stands, I think the game modes are a lot of fun. The maps are certainly a lot of fun. The game looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks so good. I'm so impressed with the graphics and the audio. Where the problems lie is in the core design of the game, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So the combat is really good. I have to say I really enjoyed the combat. It's a different system than what most melee games go for. Most melee games go for the idea of, you use the direction you want to swing in, and then you swing, and then you do the thing with your mouse, and very much Mountain Blade style combat. This game uses a very similar but more refined combat system than that. So you basically have left, right, and up, and then you essentially use that to attack. So if you press up and you go into the high stance, and then you can attack from that. If you're in the high stance and the opposite player attacks you in the high stance, you will block. But if and it's that kind of thing. You've got to match the stance to your enemy, as well as trying to move stance so that they don't match yours for defense. And there's a nice range of combos in the combat. I would have liked to see a bit more, but for the most part, I have to say that the combat, it's fun. It's really fun, and it's really solid. But there's one core problem to the entire game currently: the fact that they use a peer-to-peer system. And I genuinely cannot get my head around why the hell they would think a peer-to-peer system for this type of multiplayer game, for a multiplayer game that is essentially multiplayer focused. It's not just a game that's got a single player and a multiplayer, and the multiplayer is just a tacked on multiplayer. The core gameplay, the core experience, and ultimately the longevity and replayability of this game is going to come from the multiplayer. And they opted for a peer-to-peer system in a melee combat game. Now, while lag doesn't... I've not really seen lag particularly affect matches in terms of skill level, so, the host has never really had an advantage per se. The problem lies in the fact that 1, you continually get disconnected from various matches. 2, for me personally, when I tried to be the host and I was assigned as the host, no one could connect to me at all. And even though I had my NAT settings completely open, no one could connect to me, I couldn't be the host, and then I would be stuck in the matchmaking process without the ability to back out. The queue times and wait times and the various lag issues are horrendous currently. I cannot understand for the life of me why the hell Ubisoft thought that peer-to-peer would be a good idea. Now, I understand in some respect that it's frightening for certain developers to have dedicated servers, especially when it happens at launch, and then, you get an influx of players and the dedicated servers crash, and then your game's offline for 6 hours just after it's launched. And I understand that. Lots of games go through that. That's just part of it. That's just part of the process. At the end of the day, it's no reason to replace dedicated servers with peer-to-peer, because peer-to-peer is problematic on a consistent basis. And I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to have a game like For Honor that I personally, subjectively, really bloody like. On an objective level, I think the mechanics are solid, the gameplay modes are solid, the character progression is solid, and it all works as intended, which, basically amalgamates in something that is very, very fun. You have a pretty, looking so far, a pretty bloody good game, and you've put in a peer-to-peer system that consistently ruins the experience for pretty much every single user. And it really is the most dumbfounding thing that they could have done with this game, because for me personally, my opinion is that it is a fantastic game. It's looking fantastic. I hope the full launch has even more content to it, and I think that it's got the possibility of being an amazing game in the long run. But the fact that you've put in this peer-to-peer system is just going to ruin it for so many people and borderline turn people off it. And I can understand why they would, because who wants to be sitting in queuing and matchmaking for 10 bloody minutes at a time? Nobody. Nobody wants to be doing that. Nobody wants to be constantly disconnected. Nobody wants their matches to keep freezing and having the session update. No one wants to do that. No one. Especially in a multiplayer experience, and it's just so dumb that they've done this, and they really do need to rethink it and put in some dedicated servers or something, because the way this is going right now, it is going to cost more frustration than it is a good, pleasurable gameplay experience. Now, returning to the combat for a moment, I have heard complaints that some people think that it's unfair, especially when you get grouped up on and there's no real way for you to survive maybe a 3 versus 1 encounter. And the only rebuttal I have to that is the fact that, well, good, because you wouldn't. I'm sorry, but if you were in a medieval warfare situation and 3 samurais were bearing down on your knight, the chances are you're gonna die. That's just the reality of it. And yes, maybe on occasion you'll be able to escape or you'll be able to retreat, but a lot of the complaints I've heard about the combat don't really stem from the core mechanics themselves. They come from the experiences. And ultimately, what I found is that you have to learn to play the game. There is a learning curve to this game. It's about knowing when to attack, knowing when to defend, and knowing when to retreat. So if you see 3 samurais coming your way and you have no backup, you better retreat because you're going to die. That's the way it goes. And it's one of those things that you just have to understand the movement, you have to understand the battlefield. But I have to say that overall, I really enjoyed the game's core combat. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was refreshing, it was fluid, and it was a lot of fun. I have to to say that I'm not particularly a massive fan of the keyboard and mouse controls, and I did prefer a controller because it was clearly designed for a controller. The mouse and keyboard system does work, and you could get proficient at it, but I have to say that it's probably worth just going with the controller all round because you'll be able to pick it up a lot quicker than you would with a mouse and keyboard. I think overall, For Honor as a game left me with mixed impressions, and I say that simply because of the peer-to-peer system. I really love the game, what's contained in it. I love the gameplay experience, I love the matches, I love the whole concept, I love the aesthetic, I love the sound, I love the character progression. But then you have this peer-to-peer system that consistently ruins the experience at almost every turn, and this just really lets it down. And for me, it's really disappointing because a game that really wants you to love it in every aspect of it is consistently let down by a really bad design choice on their part. And there's no reason why dedicated servers would not have worked in this situation. And I understand that they're expecting the game to be popular, but again, just add more servers. It's worth taking the cost to providing a really solid gameplay experience. And that is my preview of For Honor. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are of the game in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe and share on social media. And as always, I will see you next time.